In these problems, we're working on reading line graphs. And it's important to understand what the numbers on the graph represent and the parts of the graph. These lines on the side, they're called the axes of the graph, and they show something. This one on the left has a legend, some words. It says rate percent. So this is 6%, that's 8%, that's 10%. And then I'm not sure what this is, and let's read the problem and see what it is. It says the graph below represents mortgage rates in June for several years. So these are the rates, these must be the years, year 1, year 2, year 3. For what year was the interest rate the lowest? And this one, maybe it seems pretty easy to you. All you have to do is find the point here. There are several points that represent when they took the measure in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and year 5. You have to find the one that is the lowest. Well, you can tell that just by looking, I think. It's this one. This one's up at 7, and this one's at 6. So that's year 1. So the answer to this would be year 1. One other little thing about this graph, it's got this sort of squiggly, jagged line right there. And that just represents that there's some of this scale that they didn't show. Typically, 0 is down here at the bottom. And they skipped some, because if they continued this scale here, you'd have, 7 here, you'd have, 5 here, you'd have 4 here, you'd have 3 here. But because there's no data down there, it would just be a lot of empty wasted space. So what they did was they kind of collapsed it, they squeezed it, and that little jagged mark is showing that. All right, next problem. This one says the graph shows the number of parts manufactured by a machine for a given period of time. How many parts were manufactured in the first 60 minutes? Now this one doesn't have points, so it's a continuous line, which makes me think that they're adding as they go along. So at, let's see, 30 minutes, it says minutes down here and it says parts here. So at 30 minutes, which would be right there, at that point the machine had made 60 parts. 30 minutes later, at 60 minutes, they'd made 120 parts. So for that period, it looks like they're making 60 parts every half hour or 120 parts an hour. And then up here, it goes flat for a while. So the number of parts the machine made is staying flat at, what do we got here, 140. So for that time period, it looks like the machine might have been stopped or broken or not making any parts or anything. And then it starts up again and adds more parts to it. All right, what do they want us to find out here? It says how many parts were manufactured in the first 60 minutes? And I guess we kind of answered that just looking at the graph. If you go to 60 and you go up, you find that it's at 120. So 120 parts were manufactured in the first 60 minutes. Let's do one more. This one says the graph below shows sales in millions of dollars for XYZ Corporation. How much greater were sales in 1994 than in 1992? So we're comparing 2 years, 94 and 92. Whoops, looks like we lost the legend on this one. Well, let me show you what it was. This is 92. This is 94. So we're going to compare this point and we're going to compare this point. This point, it says, let's see, what's our scale here? Here's 10, here's 20, so this must be 15 in here. So it looks like at 1992, we were at 15, but I've got to be careful because this is actually, it says here, in millions of dollars. So that's not just 15, it's 15 million. And then we'll look at 94, and that appears to be at 40. So in 1994, we're at $40 million. And what we want to do is find the difference. How much greater were the sales in 94 than 92? So we're going to subtract 15 million from 40 million. If you want to do that in your head, you might just leave the millions off for now. 40 minus 15. Well, let's see, 40 minus 10 would be 30, minus another 5 would be 25. So the difference is actually going to be 25 million. Of course, you can just check that on your calculator. Now let's see, this was dollars. So that's our answer there. So a little bit about reading line graphs.